guys, it's Christy, and I'm going to be talking about writer fears and how to overcome them. Fear number one, I won't be as good as this other writer. Let me tell you, if anything is going to stunt your creative process, it's comparison. Now, comparison isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it can actually turn out to be a positive. You know, when I'm reading another writer who's super prolific and pumps out novels regularly, it can actually kind of kick in my competitiveness where I think, oh, I can do that, you know, and it can actually help improve your writing. But when you're reading someone else's work and all you feel is self-doubt and you think, my book is just never going to be as good as that, my writing will never be as eloquent as theirs, or, you know, you're just starting to feel that your writing is worthless and meaningless, that's definitely an indicator that you should put the book down. Now, Theodore Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. And what I suggest in those moments is you ask yourself, am I being fair to myself? You know, does this writer have a ton of experience under their belt that I don't have? A lot of successful authors that are regularly publishing are also writing full time. So they might have a really valuable resource of time that you don't have. And when you start to think about these things, it really becomes clear that yes, you are being unfair to yourself. One thing to remember is that you are the best cheerleader that you have. And if you're knocking yourself down, it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy that, you know, how are you supposed to play your best game if your cheerleader isn't cheering you on? It's great to have the support system of family and friends, but ultimately at the end of the day, you're your best ally. So, you know, I would suggest start doing some affirmations and telling yourself, you know, only positive things about your writing. You know, tell yourself what you really like about your writing. Or, you know, it might be that you're telling yourself what you want to happen and focusing on powerful words like I am successful. Say it in, you know, say it in the present tense. I am a successful author. I am this, I am that, and like kind of visualize that. And I think that you're going to start to feel a lot more positive when you really pump yourself up. You know, remember, you are that cheerleader. And one last thing I want to say about comparison is that even if you compare yourself against an author who's in the exact same position as you, if their belief in themselves is greater than yours, they are going to be more successful than you just because of that very fact. Fear number two, someone has already written my story. This is also a reason why some people object to reading. I know I myself, anytime I'm looking at a synopsis of a book and I'm reading the beginning of it, and it seems even remotely similar to the story I'm telling right now, I close out of it as fast as possible. I don't want to see it. I feel like it just inhibits my creativity because, you know, I'm just so afraid that I'm going to be writing the exact same thing. And I think so many writers struggle from this. And recently I was reading a blog post. If I can find it, I'll link it down below. It was really helpful. It was talking about if you were back in the 90s and let's say this new author came to you with their book idea and they said they wanted to write about, you know, a boy wizard and a wizarding school and these adventures, you might be inclined to tell them, you know, I wouldn't bother. There's already a successful series out there based on that same concept. You would actually be discouraging J.K. Rowling herself from writing Harry Potter. And that was because at the time there was already a book series about that same concept. And so you just never know. You never know how yours is going to stack up to others. So basically you just have to trust that your story is going to come with all these different nuances that this other story doesn't have. It comes with your personal unique voice. It comes with your writing choices, your dialogue. You know, you can be sure that all these other books out there are not written by you. And so just keep that in your mind and, you know, try to keep a chin up, keep your blinders on, and just focus on telling your story. Fear number 3, my novel won't be as good as it is in my head. This one can be super frustrating. It actually happened to me when I was reading through my rough draft that I had just written. And I found that the rough draft really wasn't telling the root of the story that I wanted to tell. So what I discovered was that while I had written an outline before I started my rough draft, it wasn't nearly as defined as it needed to be. I didn't have my characters fleshed out completely. I didn't really have those themes written down and identified that I wanted to be in my novel. And one exercise that really helped me with this was writing the back cover of my novel. You know, that back cover, once my novel's published and, you know, I have the hard copy in my hands, what is that back cover going to say that's going to inspire someone to open it and read it? So this really helped me figure out what was the hook of my novel. What was it that I loved so much about my novel? And this helped me identify the gaps in my rough draft so that when I went back to my revision, I can make sure and incorporate those things so I tell that story that I was aiming to tell. Fear number 4, people aren't reading my genre and my audience isn't big enough. This was an issue for me mostly when I was pursuing traditional publishing. My protagonist was in college, which technically bumped my novel into the new adult genre instead of young adult. And this really bothered me for a while because, you know, after doing a lot of research in the new adult genre and reading more in that genre, I didn't feel like my book fit in that genre. And really the only thing tying me to that genre was my character's age. And so, you know, that created some structural problems for me when I started thinking about, you know, possibly changing her age so that I could kind of go back to the young adult where I felt like it fit. But again, created structural problems because my character really needed to be a certain age for the story to work. And I've learned now that something like your character's age really should not influence the genre if there's no other elements in the story that fit that genre. And you also really need to trust your gut. If you feel like your novel fits in a particular genre, then it does. You know, you're the one telling that story. Don't let anyone else dictate that. And I also found that reading more and spending some more time in the reading community and watching more videos really helped teach me a lot. You know, I learned that readers aren't so much invested in a particular genre, they're more hooked by the concept of a book. And if, you know, it falls outside of the genre of what they normally read, they're more likely to, you know, make that plunge into the unknown when they're invested in your story concept and your hook. So my advice would be do some more research in that genre and see what's out there, see what's being published, see what people like, you know, watch book reviews and get more involved in the reading community. And fear number 5, I won't ever be able to finish all of these stories. So if you're one of the lucky ones who is constantly bombarded with a flow of ideas and inspiration, then congratulations. This is actually a blessing. Might not feel like it all of the time, but it is. You know, there are so many writers out there that suffer from writer's block, that suffer from a lack of inspiration and creativity, and you really have to keep that in mind. You know, like someday you might fall into a writing slump, and you're going to be so happy to have that backlog, that reservoir of good ideas that you can pull. It's always great to have a shiny new idea in your back pocket. And I actually did a video about shiny new things syndrome recently, and basically the idea of, you know, how it can sometimes be challenging when you have this new idea that you're excited to write, but you're in the middle of a project and, you know, you really want to focus on that project. And I have some tips and techniques on how to ward off those ideas so you can focus on your project. So if that video is up, I will link it down below. If it's not, stay tuned. And I just wanted to say that I know from experience that writing can be scary, but just try to remember, as Ray Bradbury said, you only fail if you stop writing. Thank you so much for watching. Did I miss any writer fears? If I did, please leave them down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every single week. And until next time, bye.